Hello, it's Nicole, and I wanted to share a blend that I came up with for you. Um, in our Unicorn Tribe private chat, we were putting in questions and asking for input. And the input, I created a specific blend for the person who asked the question, but then I felt like this could be maybe something that would benefit the whole group. And so the thing was being hard on ourselves and asking the question, who would I be if I didn't judge myself? Which is such a good question, such an insightful question, such a wise question. And then her daughter's reactions to her doing things a certain way gets the reaction of huffs and sighs. And that's the part that I thought we could all kind of relate to if we have kids, or people in our life where we really want to do our best by them, and we are pouring out our love into them to help them. Pardon me. Excuse me. Release something there. Just wanting them to be happy and blessed by the way that we interact with them and how we serve them, especially like our kiddos and our family and stuff. But it could certainly be coworkers or whatever. And on the surface, it sounds like such a noble goal. But then if you look just a little bit deeper, yes, part of it is motivated by love, but part of it is codependency and needing people's reaction to be a certain way to gauge and know if we're okay. And that has been a survival skill, that has been a coping mechanism to help us navigate certain situations, especially with abusive authority figures in our lives, whether it was a spouse or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or parents, religious authority like teachers. I mean, there's been so much abuse of power over the years, so it could really be any relationship dynamic. And even sometimes when we're really hard on ourselves, we can be the taskmaster that's requiring things to be a certain way and then feeling frustrated and disappointed with ourselves when it doesn't come through, or we don't live up to our own expectations that are really just very unrealistic and perfectionistic, and they're not loving. They're not kind. They're not compassionate. They're not even appropriate. No one could ever do everything perfect. And so this blend is specifically with my friend in mind who asked this question, but I feel like it could be something that would benefit all of us. And so the blend is a 5 ml bottle size. So if you have a 10 ml, just double it. And so it can be used 3 times a day, like morning, afternoon, evening. I like to do blends sometimes that when I'm working through things right when I wake up, and then at some point during the day when that feeling or that emotion comes up, and then before I go to sleep again, to just really wire in that intention of this is what I'm working on. This is the energy and the vibration I want to stay in as I navigate this. And right now, personally, I'm using Rose and Console for some things that I'm working through, and I keep them with me in my pocket or my purse, and I put them on. Throughout the day, I've been drinking tea with rose in it, just because I have rose water I've been spritzing myself with, and it just helps me stay in that space of unconditional love and helping me through some grief. And so I love having those oils with me. They help me set the intention, but then also hold the space or hold the vibration until my own body chemistry adjusts and my brain neural pathways rewire to that new normal. And so that's what I love about these blends, where we do them repetitively, because we're really strategically attacking something we want to shift from to what we want to shift to. We're creating a new normal. And so using our oils strategically is just such a great way to do that. And we get the most benefit out of them. We have them, so we might as well use them. All right, so this 5 ml blend 3 times a day, we start out with 4 drops of frankincense. So the energy that's storing here in this scenario is feeling abandoned, and we're shifting it to feeling spiritually connected. anytime we feel disconnected or abandoned from God or the divine, we know that that's not true, because there's nothing that can separate us from the love of God. And so removing the feeling of being abandoned to knowing and trusting and even being able to feel our spiritual connection at all times. So frankincense is that oil of truth. It's the divine masculine. It's that Papa God part, like the daddy, the Abba that we love, to bring in that energy and hold space for that feeling of knowing that we're always connected and our Papa is always available. And especially if we haven't grown up with that, we're going to have to retrain that. There's been so much misuse and abuse of the idea of God or fatherhood or male, any kind of relationships really in this world. And so frankincense is our big, powerful player in rewriting that narrative. So then the next oil is basil. We're going to do 2 drops of basil, and we're going to shift from feeling dependent to rested. And in this space, basil's holding the energy and rewriting, helping reintroduce new information into our bodies, into our cells. From feeling like we're dependent on the reactions of other people, the approval of other people, the checklist, if you will, to just resting and trusting and knowing that we are so loved, so accepted, so held. And the next one plays into that. It's bergamot. We're going to do 3 drops of bergamot. Bergamot is the oil of self-acceptance. I wanted to say about basil too, it's kind of like my yoke is easy and my burden is light, and you will find rest for your soul. It's very replenishing for thyroid, adrenal, just when you feel depleted. I love basil. I love that it came up in this blend. And then bergamot, same thing, like acceptance. I am okay as I am. I was created with divine intention, and who I am is okay enough. And yes, I'm in process, but I'm also already totally loved, totally accepted as I am. So the feeling that stores there is feeling unloved, and we're shifting that to being confident in the fact that we are loved and accepted. And then if you have birch is the oil of being upheld. It smells similar to wintergreen, but it does very different things. So if wintergreen is more like if you have a stubborn energy that won't let go, and we don't want that particular thing for this blend. We want to shift from feeling alienated to connected. So if you don't have 2 drops of birch, you could substitute 3 drops of cedar wood, which will shift you from feeling lonely to connected. So you add another drop, because lonely is one thing, but alienated is like on a whole nother level. So really bringing in the energy of I'm connected in community. I am so loved. I'm so supported. I have tribe, like ideal tribe, authentic tribe, unconditional love tribe, not I have to fit and change myself in order to be okay enough to belong here. No, I don't have to fit in. Like I have belonging. I'm not alienated from God. I'm not alienated from my community. I'm connected. So whether you have 2 birch or 3 cedar wood, that goes there, and that'll hold that space. And then 3 copaiba. Copaiba is our shadow work oil, and I love it. It helps shift from feeling regretful to redefined. And this has been coming up a lot for people right now. This is an energy that a lot of people are feeling, including myself, where we regret the past and we define ourselves according to the mistakes that we feel we made in the past, which were really just stepping stones on our learning journey. They're not mistakes. Yes, we don't want to stay there. That wasn't the desired outcome, but it's absolutely foundational for our learning journey. And it's part of what makes us who we are and why we are so absolutely certain that this feels like it's in alignment and we know that this is out of alignment, because we've made these choices and they felt so off and they weren't for us. They weren't authentic to us. They weren't for our highest and best. So now we just ding, we are so in tune. We are so in alignment with what feels right. And we wouldn't have that absolute foundational knowing if it weren't for those decisions and choices that we made that we think are mistakes, but they're absolutely, you hit the wrong note on the piano, it sounds out of tune, you know the difference. Your ear is tuned to the right note versus the wrong note. And that wrong note might have been a right note in a different song, but we're playing this song. And we use our copaiba to just be redefined. This is who I am. This is in alignment. This is my narrative. These mistakes don't define me. They are part of my story, and they are part of my inner wisdom. And I love my friend Jessie says, if our bodies and our cells store generational trauma, they also store generational wisdom. And so my narrative is that my cells are filled with generational wisdom. So that's copaiba, and that really helps with all the shadow work of shame around any decisions or regrets that we've made in the past. The next oil you may or may not have that came up is clementine. And clementine is a really special oil. I want to say it has like 47 or 49, but I think 47 different chemical constituents that are absolutely unique to clementine oil. They are not in any of our other citrus oils. So if you have clementine, use clementine. That's our first choice. But if you don't, do red mandarin instead, because it will help you hold this vibration. So it's 2 drops of clementine or 2 red mandarin, whichever you have. And it's going to shift you from feeling stressed to seeing the joy and wonder. And in this context for her, it was around mothering and parenting. And that is why I brought in the red mandarin as the substitute, because red mandarin shifts you from burdened parenting, feeling exhausted and unappreciated, to fulfilled parenting, refreshed and cherished. And if you have the Oils and Emotions book, read the page on red mandarin. It is so awesome. They don't have clementine in this one. I'm hoping they have it in the 2019 version. We'll see. Okay, so yeah, either clementine or red mandarin, because you want to see the joy and wonder in your interactions with your children, in the way that, like, wow, you would do things so differently than I would do them, and that's not wrong. And how I do it isn't wrong, and how you do it isn't wrong. Speaking of children, could you please go out? Mama's recording the video, Lovey. That's okay. See, seeing the joy and wonder. His little beautiful face with his cute little cowboy hat popped his head in here. If I wasn't focused on the joy and wonder, and I was just focusing on having a perfect video with no interruptions, I would have been irritated or stressed that happened. So it's a game changer. I'm telling you, it's a game changer. All right, and then finally, last but not least, 1 drop of geranium, that oil of love and trust that just binds it all together, shifts from feeling like you're grieving to being trusting and open. So for me, that feels like grieving your idea of how it should have gone, how it should have been. In this particular instance, this is a parenting relationship with a child with special needs. And there's a lot of grief that can happen. I'm feeling like tears coming up for this. Because you have this idea of what your mothering journey is going to look like, and then you get these amazing kids, and a lot of times, if not every time, it's different than what you thought it was going to be. And even though you absolutely unconditionally love that child, you'd lay down your life for that child, there's a grieving process that you go through that people, I think, are starting to talk about, but certainly when my kids were little, nobody was talking about grieving for the children that you were given. You would never speak that out loud because you'd feel so shameful around it, like, oh, I'm not grateful, or I don't love my kids. Yes, I do love my kids. Yes, I am grateful, but I had a very different idea starting out than the idea, the actual reality of my situation. And the absolute truth is, I wouldn't change my kids for anything. And I love who they are. I love who we are becoming, who we are together. But there is there is a grieving process. So geranium helps us to be trusting and open to the process. The learning process, the growth process, the releasing process of that idea, that ideal that we had, the mom we thought we would be in our head. And that's so different than the mom that we showed up to be. And if you're not a mom, this can apply to any situation where you feel like I thought this was going to go a different way, and it didn't go that way, and this is my life path, and I want to shift from grieving that to loving and trusting. I have a good friend who's going through cancer, and I don't think that was her plan. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. And just being able to be open and trusting that we are divinely loved, divinely held, and that there is a plan. And no, like, I'm not one of those people who thinks that God gives you cancer to teach you a lesson. I think that shit happens and that God is with you in the shit, and that she it grieves all alongside you, even more than you could even fathom, because like unconditional love knows that it wasn't like it wasn't supposed to be this way, but we needed this human experience to teach us these things. I don't know exactly how it all works out, but I don't think that God causes these things. I think that they happen, and we have the presence of divine unconditional love to help us navigate it and to feel the pain with us and experience the heartache and the disappointment and all the things. But I love how geranium holds space in this blend for grieving to being trusting and open. So my friend, I hope this is a blessing and an encouragement to you in your specific trial that you're experiencing. I hope you will give yourself love and grace and say, even though my kiddo huffs and rolls their eyes when I don't do things the way that they rigidly would like me to do it, it's okay, because my way is okay and their way is okay. And hopefully it'll create some conversations around grace and to your child's level of understanding and ability to process through that. I'm excited to see the shift that it will bring about in you, and your ability to just let them have their big feelings, and even if those feelings are displeasure, and not to internalize those, that's an indictment that you're somehow not a good mom, or not doing the best that you can, or doing things the way that you feel led to do them. And sometimes, so my son, who turns 14 today, and he's been doing some of the huffy stuff, and I've had to realize, my job isn't always to make him happy, and I'm not always going to make him happy, but I am doing the absolute best that I can. And we're going to make people pissed off at us. I mean, that goes for spouses, co-workers, bosses, parents, people we used to hang out with, people we used to go to church with. We're probably pissing a lot of people off, or confusing a lot of people, frustrating a lot of people, because we're just they can't get their hands on us. My friend Curdy likes to say they're trying to poke holes in us because they can't even see us. We're vibrating on such a different level right now, and they're like, I can't even see you. So they're trying to just, I don't know, feels like throw darts at sometimes to poke holes in us because we're so shiny they can't even see us. I don't know. It's just a fun way to look at it. But with our kids, they have different ideas. They're trying to figure stuff out. They're so full of hormones and feelings, and they're their own entity. They're their own agency. They're their own being. So being able to navigate family life and relationships where you are allowed to do things differently, and that my way is okay and your way is okay. They're just different. It can bring a lot of freedom, and it can inspire a lot of joy. And I actually learn a lot from my kids when I go, I would not do it that way, but you're doing it that way. Let me just watch and see how this ends out. And sometimes they make a giant mess that then they have to clean up, or sometimes I learn something about them that I didn't know, and it can actually be really cool. So I don't know if that pertains to you particularly, but that's what came up for me around that. So I think this blend could be applicable for all of us, which is why I'm sharing it. I hope that you are blessed by this. I am certainly grateful and privileged to be a part of this healing journey with you and with my unicorn tribe. You guys are the most awesome people, and I love you so much. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your life stuff with me, and that we can do this together. It's nice to feel like we have a tribe and we aren't alone, and that we're all growing, we're all becoming the best versions of ourselves. So have a wonderful day.